in the fields of bodies burning, as the war machine keeps turning, death and hatred to mankind.
So 90 people killed today in Afghanistan by NATO bomb. Basically what happened was the Taliban seemed to have hijacked a fuel truck. The fuel truck got stuck somewhere and local people came down to it to collect some fuel, as you would if you lived in complete poverty, as many of the people in Afghanistan do. Yeah, and basically NATO struck the fuel truck with a missile and obviously caused carnage, and quite a few of the people who were killed today were civilians. And I just think it's absolutely disgusting, and I think it's very easy for us in the West just to forget about these victims of war and just to forget about these Afghani people and Iraqi people who are killed by the invading forces, by our invading forces. You know, 200 UK soldiers have died in Afghanistan since the invasion, and each one of those is a tragedy. But at least in the West, you know, we hear their names and we see their pictures, and you know, people grieve for them because they're British, basically. But no one over here grieves for the innocent people who are murdered in Afghanistan. You know, we never hear about the innocent people who are killed by missile strikes, because each one of those people is a human being, and each one has a family and a story, you know. And it's very easy for us just to read in the newspaper, oh, 90 people killed in Afghanistan, and just to forget that and to just blank it out. But we really need to start thinking about these victims of war. And we also need to start thinking about what the actual point of this war is and who's benefiting from it. Because to my mind, this is a complete invasion, and it's all about controlling oil routes and things like that. I mean, the argument that Gordon Brown is using is basically that we're in Afghanistan to prevent terrorism in the UK, which I just think is a rather silly argument, because, I mean, fair enough, in the past there were camps in Afghanistan where the militants trained, the supposed Al-Qaeda trained in these camps, but these camps don't exist anymore. They've been wiped out, basically. The Taliban still exists in Afghanistan, but what are they going to do, you know? How would a member of the Taliban pose a threat to the people in the UK? I mean, the Taliban are really unworldly, and they probably don't even know where the UK is. And I mean, I'm not, you know, being derogative by saying that. It's quite true that the Taliban live in their own society and they don't know a great deal about the outside world. And for Gordon Brown to argue that there's any kind of threat from the Taliban is just completely ridiculous. I mean, how would members of the Taliban be able to get to the UK and to cause any kind of trouble? You think about the complete surveillance that the UK is under now, and the completely strict border controls. Can you imagine a Taliban with a turban trying to get through customs? And yeah, I don't think it would happen somehow. So that argument is just, you know, it's completely ridiculous that we're there to try and protect Britain from terrorism. And they tried to use the spreading democracy line, and we saw the recent elections in Afghanistan, which were a farce, really. And I'm sure there was so much corruption gone on there. I mean, basically the New World Order knew what they wanted from that election, and they would get it no matter what happened, you know? Completely rigged and completely controlled. And what does democracy really mean to the people of Afghanistan? I mean, you know, this is a country that has never been democratic, and I don't really see what benefits it would bring to the people there. I mean, no one would argue that the Taliban were a positive thing, and everyone would condemn, you know, the treatment of women and things like that. But at the end of the day, is it our business to invade countries to impose what we think is right on the people, especially when people are killed in that process? Personally, I don't think it is at all. We've even had ministerial aides in the past couple of days saying that they disbelieve the reasons given for the continued invasion and occupation of Afghanistan. So, you know, even politicians are saying it. So Basically, I say it's just time to get the troops out of Afghanistan. I don't want to see any more soldiers killed, but I mean, at the end of the day, I actually have more sympathy for the innocent people in Afghanistan who are killed by NATO, because at least soldiers, you know, they know what they're doing, and they put themselves up for the job, you know. They didn't have to do that. It was their choice to join the army, and that's the risk that you run when you join the army. So people always say we should support the troops. It's really important to support the troops. Well, this isn't going to go down too well with quite a lot of people, but I don't support the troops because they chose to do that job, and they chose to go there, and they knew the risk they were taking. And I've spoken to people from NATO who actually left, or who were thinking about leaving, because they knew what was going on, and they knew that it was an illegal occupation, and it was about resources, and it was about defending the front line basically in this war on terror. It wasn't about helping the people at all. So I say, bring the troops home. End this fucking war. It's a disgrace, it's disgusting, and every single innocent Afghani death is a complete tragedy, and none of us should forget that. Peace.